inspections, and more importantly, inspection red flags. What should you be on the lookout for, both as a seller and a buyer? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Hey guys, I'm Carlos Colon with Georgia Perimeter Homes, and we're going to jump right in. Mainly inspections. What are they? This has nothing to do with an appraisal. This is something very different. Typically, when someone's purchasing a home or selling a home, the buyer will have a period where they have the right to inspect that home. This is a third-party inspection, has nothing to do with the lender. Now, that particular inspection, they hire a third-party company to come into their home, to go in and look at every system under the sun to know what the condition of the home is. So, what's important to know about this? Number one, it takes about, depending on the size of the home, anywhere from, at the shortest I've ever seen is about 2 hours, the longest I've ever seen is about 6 to 8 hours. When we're dealing with very large homes, typically 6 to 8 hours. Now, when it comes to your seller and your seller point of view on inspections, what should I be looking out for? What are my red flags, so to say? And so the first thing is really, as a seller, you should really work on staying out of the way during inspections. The reason why that's so important is, if you could imagine, the inspector is there to do a job for the buyer. We don't want to make them upset or angry. We just want them to come in, do their job, be done, and go. They'll put their report together, they'll send it over to their agent and to the buyer, and they can review it, and then at that point we go from there. Now, the second thing that you could probably do that would be very helpful to an inspector is be helpful in general. What that means is be willing to answer questions. And of course, this is if you are present during this inspection. The reason why this is important is there are some homes that have particular things like switches that we don't know where they go to, that the inspector won't really be able to figure out sometimes. In those kind of instances, it's always helpful for the seller to be able to answer simple questions like that. Now, if I were staying home during an inspection, all I would tell my inspector to do is just go ahead and do your thing, and if you have any questions, hey, come over and ask me and I'll let you know what it is. And so that's the best way to be helpful during an inspection and to make you look like the good guy. So, the third thing is really, if you trust your agent, learn to trust the process. The inspector being inside your home is not a time to negotiate. That has nothing to do with negotiations at this particular time. Now, vice versa, if you don't trust your agent, get a new agent and then trust the process. What the process is we get an inspection, we get the report back, the buyer and their agent talk about that report, and then we put together an ATAC, an amendment to address concerns if there are concerns about the property, and then we send that over to the seller to let them know what we're concerned about and either want repaired or want handled, or questions that we want answered. And so we just want to make sure that that process is kept intact, because that's usually the easiest way to handle it. There are very, very small or very few instances in which speaking directly or negotiating with the buyer directly during an inspection would actually work out. In fact, I don't think I've ever had one that worked out that way, in a good way, when the seller was involved in that. Now, from a buyer point of view, what should we be on the lookout for? What are my red flags when I'm getting an inspection report? Number one, you need to know who you're hiring for this job. This person needs to be certified and they need to be experienced. That is extremely important. And if you have any doubts or you don't buy enough homes to really know whether they are or not, ask your agent. If they're a good agent, they're going to be closing over 80 deals a year anyway. And so they're going to let you know what a good inspector is, or who a good inspector for this property is, and they'll point you in the right direction. Now, from there, what you want to look for is going to be, you receive the report back, and you want to really look for the big major items. And I'm gonna list them off here for you. So when we're talking about structure, for example, we're talking about the roof, the framing, those kinds of things. Electrical, we want to make sure that there's no random live wires throughout the house that could cause fires or things like that, or no outlets that have been burned or singed that could cause house fires. So that's, again, going back to safety issues. Plumbing. We want to make sure that the plumbing's intact, we're not leaking water everywhere, and this goes also into water intrusion. If you have a basement, you want to make sure that it's not being flooded every time that it's being rained outside. Anytime that water collects, it builds pressure on the outside and it finds a way in one way or another. So we want to make sure those things are handled if they're a part of this particular report. HVAC, so that would be your heating and air conditioning in your home. That, along with the lines, if there's anything major wrong with that, we want to have an HVAC specialist come and check it out and make sure everything's okay. Your foundation is going to be another important part. The foundation of your home, meaning whatever your home sits on. In most cases, here in the state of Georgia, that would be a slab. So that means your cement slab, and making sure that that's intact and it's not sinking into the ground or doing anything crazy. So there's always settling, but we just want to make sure that that home is still going to be standing strong, 20 years down the line. And then the last thing that I would say that you need to be careful for is going to be what we call WDOs, wood destroying organisms. Now, a lot of times your inspector will do this and be on the lookout for this when they're doing it, but sometimes they won't, and you'll have to hire a third-party company to look at this, or maybe your agent built it into the deal anyway to where the seller has to provide a clear termite or wood destroying organism letter as a part of the closing. So in all of these things, let's say I get my report back and I've got a couple things that are an issue in this home that my family wants addressed before we close on this house. Great, well, we negotiate that. That's the next part of this process, which is going to be the negotiation. Typically, there's going to be two different ways I want to negotiate. Number one, I want the repairs done. Or number two, I want money. One way or the other, and I'll deal with the repairs myself down the line. Now, neither option is really right or wrong. It really depends on what you're comfortable with. I have some buyers that are just, hey, we need this done. We can't handle this ourselves after closing. And so that's one way, okay? The other way is, I don't mind dealing with it myself, but I want to make sure that I've got enough money to deal with this after the fact. So if you give me this dollar amount, I'll deal with it. And in that case, there's nothing wrong with that either. It's all about what's right for you. Of course, all of this has to fall in line with your purchase contract, which I say that to say, if you've got a home that's on the market for $100,000 and it's in bad shape, that's why they're selling it for that price, and you negotiated or your agent did down to $50,000 or $60,000 as an as-is sale, yeah, I'm probably not going to be asking for all these repairs to be done because I knew that going into it. That's why I got that big savings in money up front. So it's all intact and it all rolls together as part of the contract. So know how you're going to negotiate, know what the best strategies are going to be in reading the report and also hiring a great inspector, and know that this inspection and the appraisal are not necessarily related, but there might be some things in that inspection report that the appraiser might be concerned about depending on what kind of loan you're getting. All right, that's it, you guys. So those are the things to look out for when it comes to an inspection. If you have any questions about this or any other concerns when it comes to real estate, or you're looking to buy or sell a home in the state of Georgia, give us a call. Our number is 770-314-1285. Website is www.georgiaperimeterhomes.com. Thanks. Bye.